previously on the vlog. From there, in 3 measly days, I'd be racing up mountains. 2,900 meters of elevation in the mountains, in fact. And that brings us to Friday, June 21st, the day before the race, and time for an easy 5K shakeout run.
We're out here in Blairmore, Alberta. This is the race site. This is my race hotel. I actually chose a hotel that the start and finish is like here. So I have 1 minute, 30-second commute. So we're gonna orient ourselves today, do a little shakeout. I'm figuring out the start, and then, so I'm pretty sure I figured out kind of like where we're running, but we're gonna take a look and take a little shakeout. Let's go. We're gonna be coming here for our bib pickup soon. This my cold's clearing up nicely, just in time. It's the day before the race. I can breathe a lot better. I'm not hacking 24/7. It's a little bit. Not too much I can do about that though. I'm following Google Earth here on my phone with the course downloaded, so I can see this will be the start. So we're gonna rip over this bridge. Going here. Alright, there's the course. Well, we are not going up it today because I can't do that much vert. Has my shakeout, but gives me an idea. Here's my course markers. I'll follow that up. We're going up that to start. We're on the other side of the river now. This will actually be the way I go back. This will be my finish. So I'm backtracking the finish. It's like very fast finish, like paved for, I'm gonna have to check like 5K. So T's road speed needs to be used today. Go tomorrow. Wow, it's so pretty. Look at that. That's my first ridge line. I'll be along the top of that. And this is the Frank slide. So this will give you an idea of what the shoe shredder is going to look like. You can see kind of that loose rock there. We're coming down something like that.
And that's my other ridgeline for the day. Later that day, we headed over to SKYRACE to pick up my race kit and checked out the start-finish line. And of course, a pre-race photo in front of the finish line. Friday afternoon, I set aside some time to plan out my nutrition and gear for the day. Let's check that out.
So we got our nutrition light out here. So this is the first hour. I'm gonna have scratch in my bottle already, and then I'll have these two, and then this will be about half an hour, so that will hit me for the first big summit, I'm hoping. Got some salt tabs for extra electrolytes. Here's an hour, so like hour each one. So I'm planning on 6 hours, but I have a 7th hour, 8th hour just in case. So this is my bonus. So this is the stuff I hope not to touch into, but I have it if I need it. And then I got my emergency kit that you have to have, which is a space blanket and a toque, as well as means to carry water, which I already have. I'm deciding on I usually carry these 3, so that'll give me 1.5 liters. So I'm deciding on maybe packing down this small one just in case I want an extra, because I do have a 2-hour aid station gap at one point, and then obviously my vest. Around 4 hours, I always try to take a nut butter because my stomach starts getting a little bubbly at that point. And then I have a second one again, so in my backup, in case my stomach doesn't want to take in the pure carbohydrates, I have that covered.
And after a few nervous hours, it was time to go to bed. Into Saturday, June 22nd, it was finally race day. My goals for the race were threefold. Of course, keep in mind, I did set these goals when I was healthy and didn't have a chest cold. My A goal was top 15. I thought if I had a very good day, I could probably run in the top 15 for the women. My B goal was top 20 for women. And C goal is always in these ultramarathons to finish, because you never know what's going to happen in one day. And sometimes with a race like that, it's just so amazing to even make it to the finish line, and we have to acknowledge that. So that's always an ultimate goal, as long as there's no injury. The race started fast, as I expected. I actually planned for this in my pre-race prep, having seen that the first kilometer was flat onto the roads, and then we instantly got into the first climb of the day. I knew it was going to really narrow down from a wide road into single track, and single track uphill, which leaves little to no room of passing. And I already learned my lesson with that with QMT, of not getting pushed out the back and then getting stuck in a conga line. So I knew that I had to start out a little faster than what I was comfortable with for having to do a 6-hour race. So my first kilometer was a 4:26. From there, we instantly started ascending and climbing up over this crazy rock face that actually felt like if you could slip and fall off of it pretty easily. And another thing for this course is there was almost no switchbacks. So we're constantly just going up the steepest part of the hill possible onto rocks, and slippery, loose rocks at that. You knew we were ascending when my kilometers at this point were 21 minutes, 13 minutes, and 15 minutes at the start of the race. As part of my prep, I made a mental note for where each climb was and when it would finish, so that in my brain during the race, I knew where I was going to be able to stop climbing, and that was so helpful. I'm so glad I did that. I knew at this point that this first hill would peak at 5 kilometers. And in those 4 kilometers, we actually climbed 900 meters of elevation. So pretty steep. At the 2-kilometer mark, I actually had one of the few negative thoughts of the day. I said to myself, uh-oh, I think I made a mistake. I shouldn't be doing this race. My calves were burning, and I did 41,000 meters of elevation training for this race. Didn't even prepare me for what I was about to do. And then finally we hit the first downhill section. Yes, now I can run, I thought. As we hit that section, it quickly turned into a very steep, loose dirt pile of single track. So I was again slip as I went down the hill, even in my good trail shoes. At the 6-kilometer mark, I started to get a hot spot under my big toes, especially on my right toe, which I knew later would turn into a blister. And then that downhill brought us into our first aid station, which was at 12 kilometers. At this point, I felt pretty good because I actually got to run from that 5th to 12th kilometer pretty consistently. As part of my plan, I did take my 100 milligrams of caffeinated gel at 30 minutes into the race so that it would hit me for the second climb ideally. And at this point, I think I was starting to feel better even just from having that caffeine hitting me. I quickly refilled my 1 liters of water, and we were off onto the second big climb of the day. I knew this climb would end at 15 kilometers, bring us to 1,750 meters of vert for the day. That's another 800 meters of vert, almost 900 meters of vert, yet again. With epic mountain views, I slowly dragged my way up the mountain, still on loose rocks, dirt, and the occasional exposed edge. With a 20, 22, 16, and 22-minute kilometer in this section, you knew we were climbing up. I exchanged places with a few people, but by then I started to find the familiar faces that I would spend most of this day with. We would pass each other back and forth depending on what kind of train we were on, and a couple of guys and a few women just kind of were around me for most of the race at that point. At the top of the hill, and we were flattening out, I asked one of the men that was around me, who mentioned that he'd done this race before, where exactly the shoe shredder was. What kilometer is it at? He said, I'm not sure, but it's soon. and it's before the next aid station. So I knew at any corner I'd be coming to the infamous shoe shredder. So it was important that going into this race, that was probably the section I'm most nervous about. So the shoe shredder is a scree descent. Scree being a collection of broken loose rocks at the face of a cliff. And when you're running on it, the scree or the ground moves with the runner. As you go down it, it comes down with you. Now, Barker's Bush home trails for the win. I tried to mimic this technique on my local trails by finding a gravel hill and running down that and learning to put my weight through my heels and to slide with it almost as if you're skiing. It worked perfectly. I was so excited. Now, another important thing that I did on this section, being a little nervous with it, is I changed my mindset. So mentally, I told myself, your only goal right now is to not fall down. I made it down most of the way without falling, but even there was a very small little slip. And I even passed one female down this section, which made me so proud because I've never even been on scree before. I was actually really excited to crush that section. I did have to stop and take my shoes off and dump the dirt out, as I had a few loose rocks or sand get into my shoes. And I didn't want to run another 2 hours like that with the blister already under my toe. Funny enough, every step that I ran down the scree, I would somehow dislodge a couple rocks, and every single time it hit my left ankle bone. Like, why? Why do you keep hitting my left ankle bone? To give you some reference at how good some people are down this section, it took me 7.5 minutes to do just over 500 meters at a 60% grade for downhill. And the leader, the female who ended up winning, did this section in 4.5 minutes. So she did it 3 minutes faster than me. So she was flying. At this point, we were on to the third aid station at 17.5K before hitting yet another climb, which would top out at 19 kilometers. As I set up this next uphill, I started feeling not as poppy as the rest of the race. The heat of the day was starting to get to me, and we've been decently well exposed on our way along the top of the last hill and down the shoe shredder. I did stay on top of my fluids, which helped. And I remember looking down my watch thinking, this hill at least is less steep than the other ones that I've been on all day. And it was still 33% grade. This uphill climb was so slow. I spent most of the time using my hands, crawling up either the rocks or the dirt, so much so that you're gonna see dirt all over my face later because I kept blowing my nose so much with my hands. Now, to give you an idea of how steep this hill was, we went up 400 meters of elevation in 1 kilometer. It was the slowest kilometer of the day at 34 minutes to cover 1 kilometer. So this finally brought us up onto the ridgeline.
We're at 20K into the race. We're on the ridgeline. I'm at 4:20 hours. Did a lot of climbing. 2,400 meters. This is. I didn't bring my phone out. I've been concentrating. So I thought it'd be nice to have a couple videos. And kind of drops off either side. Going up there. Let's go. Been running on this all day. Just loose rocks. And this is the greatest ridgeline. That's sketch. Good thing I go rock climbing. Now let's go down. I like that line.
And you think that the climbing would be done for the day. No, we still had another climb to reach 2,800 meters.
One more summit. We just came off of that. Just climbed over that. So many false summits, but we're almost done the vert for the day. I'm at 4 hours and 55 minutes. Hoping to be done by 6.5. We're getting close to the reset.
Now the rest of the course I knew was relatively net downhill with a few bumps.
We're at the top of the last peak. Now
It started along the top of that ridge line with a 100-kilometer gust blowing me over. I stumbled around on the loose rocks trying to get my turnover back. Eventually I started rolling. It was and always is a goal of mine to finish strong in an ultramarathon. So I knew with the last 10K being net downhill, I could finish strong, pick up the pace, and try to pass people who were fading. And that I did. First, a few men still along the ridge line, and then as we got it into more of the forested sections, I started passing some of the female. A few in the forest, one who unfortunately was suffering from some blisters, and then I spotted another female up ahead just before the final aid station. I knew that if I made my aid station stop very quick, I could pass her and get far enough ahead of her that she couldn't catch on to my momentum. Knowing that I was only 5 kilometers away from the finish, I knew I didn't need 2 bottles filled, I only needed 1 filled. So I quickly pulled that bottle out as I was running up to the aid station, told the volunteer, water, and then assertively instructed them, pour water over my head. So poured water over my head, put my bottle back in, and I sprinted out of there into the forest, picking up onto my tempo pace.
we're at 26K. It's been like this for a few kilometers. Just rolling. Let's go. Get to see Josh soon, and then head to the finish.
I knew soon enough I'd be back onto the paved trail to the finish. So I kept up with my tempo pace and finally reached that glorious road. I knew Josh was planning on being a little bit away from the finish, so I knew that I would see him at some point. And there he was, 3 kilometers away from the finish.
Let's go, T. Nice, so strong. Yeah, it's over this little bridge, and then it's on the road, okay? And then 3K. You're doing really well. There's a girl who's dying up there. Crush it.
He told me that girl was fading ahead of me and that I could catch her. At this point, I haven't yet seen her, but I continued hammering my tempo pace, even bringing it down to 4:30 for 1 of the kilometers. So as I picked up my pace, I could finally see her in the distance. I used an old road racing trick of finding a landmark and timing when she was at it and then when I arrived at that mark. It was about 1 kilometer to go and she was about 1.5 to 2 minutes ahead of me. Pretty far for a kilometer, but not in a trail race. People really fade when they're really having a hard day, if the sun's getting to them or they're bonking. You can make up minutes very quickly. So I continued to hammer. As we ran down the streets of Blairmore, I was starting to lose real estate. I knew I could catch her, but I worried I might not have enough room. At about 400 meters from the finish, I gritted my teeth thinking, oh, this hurts. I have to get her. This is now or never. And I put in an extra little surge and passed her right before we went onto the grassy section, which would have been so much harder to pass on, and hammered home to the finish.
Let's go, T. Come on. Got someone right on you. Go right on you. Let's go. I think this will be 20th. Let's go. So strong. Good work.
I did it. The hardest race of my life. 2,900 meters of elevation gain in only 33.5 kilometers in 6 hours and 40 minutes. I placed 21st female, even with a chest cold. passing 5 females in the last 10K. I do wonder if I hadn't been sick, if I would have been maybe 20 to 30 minutes faster, mostly because I was really struggling on the uphills with my breathing and spending a lot of the day coughing and having a hard time picking up the pace on the uphill specifically, which was 3/4 of this race. After a much needed grass nap, we stumbled our 30-second commute across the street to our hotel for a shower and to head out and get some food. And then we had 3 more epic days in Alberta before heading back home to Ontario. So for Sunday, June 23rd, we made a little side trip to Dinosaur National Park. Quite a bit of a drive from Blairmore. It was a pretty epic location knowing that Josh loves dinosaurs so much and we wanted to go see some real life fossils. You know you're getting close when you see dinos on people's lawns. It was so interesting that we just saw the Badlands in Ontario near Caledon, which you saw in my last vlog, and now we were seeing the Badlands of Dinosaur National Park, which was 80 square kilometers of Badlands. Dinosaur National Park is actually a UNESCO World Heritage Site since 1979. It has one of the richest dinosaur fossil locations in all of the world, with 58 species being discovered and over 500 specimens. We headed out on a bus tour of the site and to see some real-life fossils. The landscape was filled with hoodoos and rills. We luckily had multiple real dinosaur fossils on display. This one was found poking its head out from this very hillside. On to post-race celebrations as we settle back into Cochrane, Alberta with our pal Megan. Monday was time for one last adventure before heading back home on Tuesday night. We headed to the beautiful Kanaskas region to finish our trip and our bucket list. We still needed to see a beautiful lake and some waterfalls.
Right in the middle of the road.
Another hilarious road animal encounter.
I'm gonna pee in the middle of the road. Oh, that's awkward.
And off onto our hike. This was a 16-kilometer hike with a small amount of elevation chasing waterfalls.
We're hiking in the Kanaskas today. A little shakeout post-race. Gonna go see some beautiful lakes.
I don't like that.
Yeah.
I'd rather go.
And lots of mountains.
I actually felt pretty good for 2 days post-race. Not too sore, but just a bit tired overall. We opted for the Kanaskas region as it's just as beautiful as Lake Louise and their mountains surround you there. And there is no tourists. Avoiding the tourist traps were high on our list.
Moving. This is insane. That's beautiful.
And can you really beat this view?
Of the Frank Slide, yeah. It does kind of look like that.
We fell off the mountain.
Yes,
somewhere.
exactly.
Holy.
That's why it's like,
Rock slide, like these are old. Like these have definitely been for a long time. But you see, like,
yeah, you're like, yeah, this is part of the mountain. Now it's part of the ground.
We made our way through this scree field.
It's cool.
We looped around this lake on the way to find the epic Upper Kanaskas Falls.
Yeah, we were like over there, aren't we? Yeah, because we were looking at that island from like this view.
I can see it. You're not gonna believe this. That big boy waterfall.
I always love a good bridge section on the trails. And we were even surprised to find more waterfalls along the route. We finished off this 4-hour hike and headed back to Cochrane, but not before yet another wild goat sighting.
Oh my god, there is goat here!
And that was the epic story of the MINOTAUR SKYRACE. Coming from Ontario, it's pretty amazing to run in the mountains among people who train there. I'm so proud of my race and I have no regrets other than maybe trying to do more to stay healthy going into the race next time. Now, in just a few short weeks, I'll be heading out to Squamish, BC for the Canadian Championships, this time a 50-kilometer race. My goal will be top 3 for that race, so stay tuned for some epic training as I combine my fitness from MINOTAUR with a few other fine-tuning elements to get me ready for the Squamish 50K. The Squamish 50K will still be a heavy vert focus, but only 2,500 meters over 50 kilometers, so about half the amount of vertical per kilometer compared to MINOTAUR. So this means that I'll be doing a lot more run training and some more speed work. As always, thanks for tuning in, like and subscribe for more.